everybody else, and everybody else said no, then no. No, Doug is one of our highest salespeople as far as buying shears from us. That's important to us. He buys a lot of shears from us. We like that. And, he sells a bunch of shears. So we figure out who's the best person. Well, actually, we asked Misty, you know, okay, Misty, who buys the most shears from us? And she said, Clark. So we said, well, that's the guy we want to talk to about how to sell shears then. You can listen to me or you can listen to Jay. He said, well, that's self-serving because, you know, we were trying to sell you shears. He's going to tell you how you can make money selling shears and how it works for him. So let's give him some applause.
Yeah.
Gene, I mean, I've learned a lot this week, and I don't know if there's a lot I can teach you guys between yesterday and today, all the ideas and all the things that you guys talked about yesterday, and covered a lot of things, and you guys are very knowledgeable. So it's not like I'm coming into anybody that's never had any sales experience. So I kind of wrote this program as kind of the basics within the industry. Just real quick, my background in this industry, I worked for small multi-line distributors. I worked for major color companies. I've run a 20,000-foot Salon and Day Spa for a couple of years. So I've had just about all the experience within the sales end of it. The only place I've never ended up is behind the chair, because I'm not a licensed societist. A lot of times people will ask me that, are you licensed? Just because of my knowledge in the industry, and I'll tell them, no, there's probably one thing I haven't. So just a little bit about my background and let you know where I come from. I guess the first thing we want to talk about, and I named this program where I came up with this, sheer excitement. Just to get you guys a little excited, I guess, is where it came from. But I want to cover the whys and the hows of selling shears. And I think the whys are very important, okay? And I guess the number one reason why that we all go for it, somebody tell me why we want to sell shears. That's it right there. I mean, that's the number one. I'm going to go through 100 of these things. That's probably the number one reason is because we want to increase our income. Another one, anybody else give me another reason why we sell shears?
We're going to get repeat business for starting.
Repeat business. I'm going to put repeat. Customer loyalty. That one I really want to hit on. Because nowadays, at least in my area, I've got sharpeners coming out of the woodwork. I don't know why, because they see it in the trade magazine, you know, make $100 an hour, and boy, that'd be a great thing to do when I get retired. So there's more and more sharpeners coming out of the woodwork, at least in my area, that I have to compete against. And what I want is a loyal client. Loyalty nowadays is where it's at. Repeat business is where it's at. Most of my customers that I do, I would say 95% of my business is repeat business. And number one, you got to do good sharpening. Because if you do bad sharpening, you'll never get back in there. They'll never hand you their shears again. And that's what gets you into the door. It opens the door for you. It's very seldom I've walked into a salon, cold call, not know anybody, go in there and sell a pair of shears. It happens sometimes, but not very often. Usually it's when you've been in there, done the sharpening, you've left the catalog, the brochure, they've seen the shears. Now the next time you come in, they're like, hey, yeah, you sold the shears, didn't you? And like, yeah, you whip them out and go through the process. So client loyalty, I think, is very important within this industry. Another reason I think is a good reason to sell shears is it helps you focus on the client. And I think if you just go in and sharpen a pair of shears from somebody, get their money and go, you haven't spent a lot of time with that client. When you're selling them shears, the focus is more on that client. You're spending more time with them. You're getting to know that client, which is going to build your credibility and build that client's loyalty towards you. Has anybody ever heard of the hook principle? And this goes back to years and years ago. I learned this in sales. And the hook principle is this, and it doesn't sound real good, but it's kind of a hook. It's a loyalty hook principle. And banks are the ones that probably do it the most. And think about it. If you have a checking account at your bank, and that's all you've got there, that's all I can do is my checking. Well, when that bank across the street opens up and they give you a free microwave oven and free checking and free checks and all that stuff, well, you know what? I might go over there and take my checking account over there because they're offering me all these goodies. But if you're at the same bank and you've got your checking account, your savings account, your Visas, your MasterCards, your home loan, your car loans, whatever, well, when that bank opens up across the street, well, I'm not going to take all that stuff and all those services and move them. So banks are a big one that use the loyalty hook. The more services that you offer someone, and I'm going to go off my notes because I thought that I could put, I don't know what I was thinking, I thought I could put this on the overhead, which I can't. So I'm going to kind of look down here. I would have it here and we can follow through together, but I'm just going to go ahead and look down here since we're short on time. It might move us along quicker anyway. The more services and sales you have with a customer, the more that client is going to be loyal to you. Now, when I say client and I say customer, I'm still talking about our stylists and your groomers. For the longest time being in this industry, I've always called every customer a client because that's kind of what stylists refer to them as. So if you hear me say client or customer, it's the same thing, okay? So the more services that you offer to that client, the more loyal they're going to be to you. So if you're doing their sharpening and you're selling them your shears, their razors, the combs, your flat irons, I know some of you divert over to blow dryers and things like that. The more things that you can offer to that client and they're buying from you, the more loyal they're going to be to you. So when that sharpener comes in that they've never seen before and says, I'll sharpen your shears for $10, well, you know, I've got my sharpening guy. He sells me the shears and my blow dryer and all the accessories to go with. All the fun things. I like to sell fun things to stylists, and they do consider their tools the fun thing. Just a little tidbit, and I got this somewhere years ago out of one of the trade magazines, and it kind of relates to the number of services and the client loyalty thing to you guys. And if you offer a client or a customer one service, well, they're about 50% to stay with you as a client for life. Next thing you go up to, if you offer them 2 services, 65%. 3 services, 75%. 4 services goes up to 80%. And if you offer that client 5 services, that's selling shears and their tools and everything, it's 99% that they're going to stay with you as a customer for life. So related to, go ahead.
I had a question for a private services when a lot of people haven't thought about it. I know it's guy down in Florida that I don't know how to do it, but how do they do it? A service he has for a salon is in addition to sharpening, refining, equipment, all that stuff, he replaces the water. They don't do heavy plumbing work, but he replaces the washers and things like that. And they're sent for the wants to have.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing.
They don't do major plumbing, just the washers.
It's a funny thing you say that.
Kind of stuff.
Funny thing you say that. I was in the salon the other day and the toilet's running. I'm like, you know your toilet's just running back there? And oh yeah, we know. So what did I do? I went back there and I think I reclipped the little flapper ball or something. I was the biggest hero. That thing had been running for a year. It took me 5 minutes. It's just because the girls had no idea, so they were just letting it run. You know? It's a man thing, exactly. So the more services and sales that you can put into a salon, and understand my business is the salon industry. I don't do groomers right now. So it's strictly salons that I call on. So that's really where I'm coming from and where I'm relating what I'm doing here. So the more service you can offer them, the more loyal they're going to be to you. Another thing that I think is important, and I'm going to go to Salesmanship 101 here from, I know Ron said, you know, I've been in the corporate world, and I don't want to get too heavy into this, but I do feel it is important to set goals. No matter if it's in your personal life, in your business life, or whatever it might be, I think it is important to set a goal. And that could be that I want to do 10 shears a day, sharpening. I want to be able to do 10 shears a day. Maybe you're not just starting out. 5 is a good number for you. In sales, I want to sell 2 pairs of shears a week. Maybe that's your goal. Maybe it's 10 a month. You have to come up with that goal of what you want to do. So really you want to try to see where you are now. So if you're selling 1 pair of shears a week, of course you want to try to sell 3 pairs of shears a week. It's kind of just like, but you have to know where you are starting now. What am I doing to know where I'm going to go? It's kind of like the the maps in the mall. You know, you go to the mall, you don't know where you're going. What do? You go to that map that says you are here. Looked on the back of the hotel door when I was closing it last night for the fire station. You are here. So they show you where you are now. You got to know where you're going to be going. So get a number of what you're currently selling. And I'm going to relate this to sales more than sharpening. Get a number of what you're currently selling. Now, if that's daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you want to do. Daily in this industry is kind of tough because it's like you can go 3 days and not sell a pair of shears, and then boom, all of a sudden you sell 5 of them in one day. It does happen. So I usually do it by a week. So I would definitely set a goal either weekly or monthly in what we're doing. So it's kind of like know where you are now and know where you're going, the map to the mall. And I like to do this, and being in sales so long and training salespeople, you know, I was with the corporate world, and it was like you had to have a 25% increase or a 20% increase or whatever it was. What I like to go off of is this. Get that number, either it be a monthly, weekly, or even a yearly number, and decide, and this is what I say, over the next 4 to 6 weeks, I want to increase that number. And I'm not going to throw a percentage on you, 10%, 20%. It's very simple. As much as possible. And that's what I go for. I don't set, you know, I want to be 25% next month increase or 50%. Because if I know I'm out there working my butt off, doing the best I can do, that number is going to increase. So I always tell everybody, get that number over the next 4 to 6 weeks, try to increase it as much as possible. And like I say, this is kind of basic stuff I'm going over with you guys right now. There's 2 ways to make money. I'm going to put this 2 ways to make more money. You can sell, whoops, my writing is terrible, so you can sell to new clients, customers, sorry. Whoops, I'm going off the sheet. I apologize. There we go, customers. Or this one, sell more to existing customers. Now, which one do you think is going to be easier?
Existing.
Exactly. Because you're already in there. They're already having the service from you, be it sharpening, or they bought scissors or shears or combs or a flat iron or brushes. So concentrate on those salons that you're already in doing work. Don't try to go making new calls trying to sell shears, because that's tough. Work on the people you're already in, they're already comfortable with you, they have a confidence level with you already. So I always try to focus on the shears I'm doing the sharpening in first with the sales. So let that hook principle work for you, and that's where it kind of comes back to. I want to sell more to my existing customers. Number one, to make them more loyal to me, because I really feel that's important to have the loyalty of your clients. And with that, that's kind of where I'm going to cover on the whys. I think the loyalty, the repeat customers, and definitely the dollars. So does anybody have any questions on anything I covered? No? Okay. You guys look totally bored. I do think I need to get up here and start sharpening or something. I can't sharpen sitting down. How many people sharpen sitting down? How many people sharpen standing up? So about half. I cannot do it sitting down. I don't know why. I've never gotten the feel. And
I get too lazy.
I don't know. I just can't do it.
I have a butt tricks.
You have a what?
I have a butt tricks.
How
I mean,
far
stand or
down?
sit.
Okay, I like that. So now we've covered some of the whys to sell shears. Customer loyalty, I feel, is the biggest one, and the dollars. Because if you got that loyal customer, those dollars will come to you. Eventually they will. So let's go on to the how. And like I say, I'm not going to write a lot up here. And I think I'm going to break this down into a couple different parts: before the call, during the call, and then what we do after the call. And understand, you guys may do this totally different. This is what I do, and this is what I've done for the last 10 or 15 years. And in all the sales forces I've been with, this really probably works the best. And getting organized is probably, and Ron touched on this yesterday, time management. being organized, knowing what you're going to do, having an objective when you go into the salon. Ron actually taught my class yesterday. I didn't tell him that, but that's okay. So before the call, what I always do is I get organized. By that, I always make sure my display case is full with shears. I have my catalogs with my price sheets in it. I have my business cards, my invoices, my customer cards. You know, I actually put mine like in a ring binder, all my customer cards. And I have what I call call report sheets. Just to touch a little bit on these, of course, the case being full, that's pretty simple. You know, you fill your case up with shears. Whoops. Fill your case up with shears. I usually, I don't carry 6 of everything. I guess I kind of got an empty wagon, Joe, but at a minimum, and this is a nice way to do it, I always have 1 to show, 1 to go. Now, on my popular shears, I will have 3, 4 shears back up. Some of the less popular, such as the cobalts or some of the more expensive shears that you're not going to sell every day, having 2 pairs is usually okay, because I look at it this way. If I run out of a shear, it doesn't happen too often, I call up Misty, and I can have that thing on my doorstep in 2 days. One day, if I overnight it, that person's got to have that shear tomorrow, I'll say overnight it, I'll pay the $20 on it. So it's not like you're going to have to wait a week or 2 weeks to get an order in. So I've always looked at it, why, nothing against you, Joe, I don't mean this, but I've always thought, why carry $7,000, $8,000 worth of inventory? Not that that's a ton of money, when you can carry 3 and probably cover all the bases that you need to cover. I wish I had the luxury of carrying 6 and the money, because I would love to do that. But, you know, if you don't have the shear when you're showing it, or don't have a backup to that client or for that customer, and you guys know this as well as I do, stylists are very frugal when they buy something. They can tell you, oh, come back tomorrow, I want to get that shear. Come back Monday or Friday, I want to get that shear, I'll have the money. And you go in with the shear and you try to say, oh, my car broke down last week, I can't get it now. And it happens. Or when they're ready to buy, they're ready to buy. And you've got to have that shear, because it's like, yeah, I got this extra money from my ex-husband or whatever it was, or from my parents for graduation, and they want to buy right then and there. And if you don't have the shear and you got to wait 3 or 4 days to come back, they may have changed their mind. They may have, some other salesman may have come in, showed them a great deal from Centrex where they get the shear and the free bicycle and the microwave oven and the TV, and, you know, and all the stuff is much better than the pair of shears they're selling them, you know. So have your case full, have your backup stock. I think customer cards are very important, because it tells you, like I was talking about yesterday about the blueprint of the salon. I said schematic made it really tough, but I do a blueprint of the salon. So on a customer card, and you know, this may be very basic to some of you guys, but I know we have some newbies in here that aren't used to going in and making calls, and these are the things that will get you organized and keep you on track, and the knowledge that you go back in the second time with off your customer card can be amazing, and I'll get into that. But on my customer card, I always like to have the salon name, of course the address and phone number of the salon. I like to get the owner and the manager's name. Then of course, another one that we talked about a little bit yesterday that sometimes is the most important one in the salon, and that's that receptionist. Because she's the guard dog that's either going to let you in the back of the pen or maybe not let you into the back of the pen. And knowing her name can really make a difference. You might not get in the first time, but if you go back in the second time and say, hi Mary, my name's Doug Clark with DC Sales and Sharpening, they're surprised that he remembered my name. They're shocked, because a lot of receptionists, and I've even heard girls say this, I'll ask them, maybe they might not be at the reception desk or whatever it is, I'll say, are you a stylist? And they'll say, no, I'm just the receptionist. And I say, don't say you're just the receptionist, say you're the receptionist. Because that's an important part of the salon, because they're the first person the client talks to, the last person they see, and they're doing all the booking for the stylist. So that's a pretty important job. So a lot of people say they feel like they're not as up on the pedestal with the stylist, but believe me, they are an important person within the salon. Now, I'm not going to be selling too much, but how many times does that receptionist go on to beauty school and then become a stylist? So if you treated her crappy up here, she's going to remember that when it comes time to buying shears or having her shears sharpened. So another other thing I like on the customer card, you can use an index card. You can go to not Home Depot, but Office Max, and they've got them pre-printed that you can do that's got like name, address, all that stuff, and then some lines to write down whatever you want to put on there.
They got those? I made up my own 12 years ago.
I made up my own 12 years ago too. Of course, they probably didn't have, of course, Office Matches weren't around 12 years
Well, this is
ago.
right.
That's
I'll
true.
feel
We had to
better.
go to the little office,
Yes.
the
Thank
little
you. I'll feel
office
a little
supply.
better.
There you go. Another thing I do, like I said yesterday, I have all the stylist names on there, and what I do is I'll flip my client card over and I'll draw a blueprint of the salon. And that's a great thing as long as the stylists don't change stations on you,
Yeah.
which sometimes does happen. But if you know your client and you've been in there a couple times, I know that's not Mary there. That used to be somebody else. So I'll kind of look around, and quite frankly, if I forget someone's name, I'll tell them, I'll say, what, I'm so sorry I forgot your name. And I will do the touch, because we're in a touchy-feely business. This is definitely a touchy-feely business. So they don't mind if you put your hand on their shoulder or on their arm. Nowhere on the backside, ever. Some stylists will even take offense if you touch them on the back above their butt line. They will. So I always make it a rule, never touch the backside until I get home. And then another thing that I will do,
Nameplates at their stations.
a lot of them have nameplates at their, that's the big, I love that. Or their license is right there, That's another good one. Of course, they need to change the picture sometimes, they get a little old, but everybody wants to have that glamour shot from 10 years ago,
Yeah, like Jay.
Didn't do any good then.
Yeah.
It'll be good now.
Right. So another thing I want to do, another thing I put on there is the shears in use, which Jay talked about. I haven't gone as far as putting the grind or anything, but I definitely put on that what they're using and what shear they're using, because what it does for me is I can go back in there and I say, Mary, how's your Joel's doing? Are you still loving your Joel's? And they're, no, maybe not. But God, you remember what kind of shears I had? How did you do that? Well, it's simple. I keep good customer cards. The next thing I want to talk about, customer cards are good. Knowing your route plan, it's a little tough because you're kind of going a lot of opposite directions sometimes, because you might plan on going down south one time or maybe east or west, and you get a phone call from a big salon, we need you up there, we got about 7 girls that need sharpening. I might change that route around a little bit and change it, but I do think it is good to have somewhat of a basic route plan. Now, if you go, basically the way I do it is I go north one week, I go east one week, I go south one week, and then I head over west one week, wherever I am. And that kind of gives me a zone that I know I'm going to kind of be in that area. Now, like I say, if somebody calls me and they need me up there and they've got multiple shears to do, I might change off that route plan and maybe pick up on it on the next day or whatever it might be. But I think it is good to have a route plan done. This is all before you're leaving the house, of course. And then the other thing I like to do is and Joe talked about this, sending your little cards out, or if you make phone calls to your accounts, have those all done before you head out, and so that they know that you're coming. I'm at the point now, and I hate to say this, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, and Jay, we were talking about this at lunch, is that I'm pretty much working off of people calling me now.
Yeah.
I've kind of fallen behind on my regular route plan on seeing everybody, so it's like, Doug, we need you in here, so it's like, that's kind of where I'm going, and that's where I'm going to kind of build the rest of my business for that day. I would rather be preset appointments everywhere, calling them being in there every 4 months, but it doesn't happen that way. They get new stylists, people change places, they move from salon to salon, so it's kind of hard to have a route plan that I stick with all the time now. That's just me. I still think you ought to have somewhat of an outline of where you're going and when you're going there. Like I say, you guys may already all be doing this, but I really want to address people that maybe haven't gone into this or don't have an idea. Go ahead.
If you could stay on a plan schedule, about how often would you visit?
I like to get in every salon once a quarter. That's every 4 months. I do like what I call my clip joints, my gray clips, my Regis, my Fiestas. whatever else is out there. Usually I like to get in there about every other month because the change, right. Reason being is usually, and don't take offense to this if you're a stylist, but the clip joints, there's number one, they're doing mostly all haircuts.
Yep.
So their shears are going to dull out quicker. They're usually doing spray downs, so they're not getting everybody back to the shampoo bowl to get a clean palette to start with. So they're cutting through a lot of product buildup. And usually a stylist can tell right away, they go to pull their hair, their comb through their hair, and it's like, "Ugh." And then they go to their shears, and it's like, dulls their shears out really quick. And I tell girls, you know, the worst thing you can do is drop your shears. I mean, that's probably the most damage you can do. Second to that probably is cut through a lot of product buildup. Chlorine this time of the year, you know, people have a lot of problem with, and that will really make the hair slide out of the shears. So it's going to dull their shears quicker. Because summertime is a good time for me because we have a lot of swimming going on in our area and stuff, so I have a lot of product buildup. They do, in the salons, they do a deep conditioning treatment or whatever to remove that chlorine. But lots of times, like I say, if you're going to Great Clips to get your hair cut, all they're doing is spraying you down with water. So whatever you got in your hair is what they're cutting through. So it's going to dull the shears out a lot quicker. So with them, I like to get in a little bit more often, about every 2 months. Yeah.
You're talking about people moving. I had a unit when about 2 trips back up to Winston-Salem. I was in a new salon. I saw right across from one of my regulars in Winston-Salem. Went in there, and it was one of my clients from Charlotte. Had opened up a shop in Winston-Salem. He'd moved.
So how many miles is that?
That's probably about 60, 70 miles from where he was.
Right, that's a big move. Now, lots of times I'll have stylists that will work in a salon and a couple of girls will get together, won't get together, open their own salon. Usually though, it's within about a 10 or 15 mile radius of where they are because they want to still draw that clientele that they had from the other salon. But I've never had somebody go 60 miles.
That's a big one. I brought up on one of my own clients.
Right, right. So, like I said, you've got your customer cards, you're ready to go. So let's talk a little bit about during the call. And this is what I do during the call. Number one, I have objectives when I'm going into that salon. I've looked at my customer cards, I know where I'm going for the day. You don't have to write it down. I don't write it down, I have it in my mind. But, you know, maybe it's to sell, maybe it's to sharpen 5 pairs of shears in there when I've only been doing about 2 or 3. Maybe my objective is only to leave a catalog for the girls that ask me about the shears. But you have to have an objective when you go in there. Mine, of course, is to sell shears, and as many as I can sell. That's my objective in every salon I go into. Of course, this comes first, of course. But I'd much rather sell 1 pair of shears, take 10 minutes to do it, make $125, than spend 2 hours at this wheel making the same amount of money. But it's very seldom that you can walk into a salon, like I say, cold call, walk in there and sell shears. Usually you've gone in and done sharpening, so the trust factor is starting to build in you. Whenever I introduce myself to an account, I don't know if I have that on here. Yeah, let me just keep going on. So have objectives before you go into the salon. Know what you talked about last time. That's very important. And that's really with each stylist. And what do? I make little notes. You know, it may be about Cindy's baby. You know, her baby was sick last time. And I might just write that on her little card, baby sick, with the date that I was in there. Or maybe it's going to Hawaii. Just little notes on each stylist. That way when you go back in, you can say, how was your trip to Hawaii? And that seems really impressive. He remembered from 3 months ago that I was going to Hawaii. But I really didn't remember. I just looked at their customer card before I walked in because I didn't remember anything about it.
Be careful, they might have a bad time though.
Well, that's true, you know, you never know. Or Aruba, I don't know if you want to go to Aruba. Yeah.
Nobody in Alabama goes to Aruba anymore.
That's bad. Ohio either. So really, and so know what you talked about last time. Know your stylist. Bonding with your stylist is important. Know what, you don't actually have to know what's going on in your life, but at least have an idea of something you talked about last time, so you can bring that back up to them. I'm a firm believer in that any two people in the world, Gene and I don't care what our differences are, there's something that him and I have in common. Something somewhere along the line. We've both got a new grandbaby.
You look like.
That's what we're going to talk about. We both have belly buttons. It just happens to be out there a little more. Well, he joked about it, not me. So, that's
I have
something.
better coverage too.
That's that's something that we can bond on. So you know a little bit of your personal life. I'm not saying go and tell your story or listen to their story for an hour or 2 hours, but it's just something now when I come back in, I can ask, hey, how's your grandbaby doing? And then they say back to you, oh, great, how's yours doing? So you've bonded with that client in a way. It's not something that I've kept in my mind for 4 months. Sometimes you remember things, especially with your regular clients, you remember. But sometimes if you've only done a sharpening for a girl, you're not going to remember too much about her personal life or anything. So I just make a little note sometimes. Not on everybody, not every time, because then it gets to be kind of phony when you're going around, oh, how's your grandson? Oh, how did you have good on your vacation? How's your new car? And they're like, what is with this guy? So I don't do it every time, but occasionally if it's something important, I'll jot it down, keep it up here, keep it on my card, then when I go back in, I'll talk to them about it. I try to acknowledge everyone in the salon. Once again, talking to the receptionist, and this can be anyone from some salons have towel people, they have assistants. I might not know their name, but I'm going to say, hi, how you doing, how are you? Who are you? Oh, I'm the sharpening guy, Because you never know when that person might become a stylist. Their mom might own the salon down the road. You just never know. So acknowledge everyone in the salon. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was just going to touch. We have a really big account here that we cater to, and I'll actually set up in the back room where they're folding towels. Him and I talk football the whole time back there. More importantly, he goes and actually lets everybody in there know that I'm there. He'll say, hey, well, I got to go stack these towels, I'll go ahead and round everybody up for you. So it saves me time, so while I'm setting up, he's going and letting everybody know that I'm there.
And another thing, you know what? You sit there, you talk football, he gets to like you. Maybe a stylist goes to him and says, what do you think of that sharpening guy? Oh, yeah, he'll do a good job. They might ask that towel person their opinion because they've been back there talking to him or watching what you're doing. So try to acknowledge everyone in the salon. The number one thing that I do when I'm sharpening, and as I have my shears on display, sometimes I'll set this book, if I have a place to set it up like that, or I'll at least lay it out. And that is the most impressive thing. If I'm here sharpening, I don't like to let this thing go too far away, but I'll have it laying out. Because lots of times they'll come back and, oh, I didn't know you sold shears also, and then they're into it. I do the sharpening in the salon. I know this is my person. I know some of you guys have great luck with a van, and that's your thing. You got to do what works for you. For me, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, with the Regis, in regards to Regis salons, I've had a problem with the Regis salon not allowing me in because they have liability problems, and that's, I guess, a corporate policy that they have.
Right.
I don't know if you've had that problem, or how do I go about navigating around that, navigating around that?
Well, first of all, if that was me, I would contact probably Regis headquarters and talk to someone up, or talk to your salon manager. Say, who would I talk to get in here and sign a release? Because basically that's what they want out of you. They want you to sign a release so they're not liable when anything happens in there, if a light falls on your head or whatever it is. I've never had any trouble with Regis on any releases or anything. And Regis, now you have to understand, they're one of the biggest companies out there. They own, well, just in my area, they have Trade Secrets, Mastercut, Regis, Smart Style, Bo-Rix, Supercuts. No, they're not Supercuts.
Not yet.
Are they Supercuts?
They're the largest chain.
Yeah, there's 8 or 9 of them in my area, all under the same umbrella.
That's
So
weird.
you don't want to, piss anybody
That's
off
weird
for
because
doing something wrong, because that can be a big account for you.
That's weird because I sharpened in a Mastercuts, and I went to Regis in the same mall, they wouldn't let me in.
Well,
I sharpened in Mastercuts. It's under the same.
Usually what I see is that under the Regis name,
Okay.
they're a little bit more strict to the company policy. Once you start
That's what I
going
noticed.
over to their subsidiaries, the master cuts and stuff,
More laid back.
they don't follow it as much, I don't think, and it may be a little bit different than management. Go ahead.
I've got 2 Regises that I've done work in, and I've been thrown out of one simply because I couldn't give it the door because, you know, I mean, she got mad just because I walked in the door. And it's the manager, because I do work in all the smart styles and the others, like
Right.
I'm talking about master cut, so it's strictly the manager.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, you have to understand that manager has the ability to say yay or nay, and owner has the ability to say yay or nay. I look at it this
Yeah.
way when I get
Well, that's what I'm
rejected,
thinking.
and it happens. It doesn't happen to me
Yeah.
very often that I don't get in the door at least to talk to the manager or the owner, but it does happen. You know, I've walked in cold calls and say, you know what, we're just not interested, or whatever the excuse might be. I look at it this way, in my area alone, there's 2,000 salons. If I don't get one of them, it's not gonna kill me.
Yeah.
I leave my card, I'm very polite, I say, if you have any questions, feel free to call me if anybody has any questions. I will probably don't go back in. If I'm driving right by there, Regis is a little different because they're under a big umbrella. But an independent salon, if I get blown off or can't get past the guard dog, or they're like, we got somebody, or no, we don't get our shear sharpened, or we send our shears back or to manufacturer only, I'll go ahead and leave a card, be very polite, head out the door, and go on to my next account. You can't worry about them because you're going to get it. You're going to get turned out occasionally. But just go on. There's 20 other on the same block on every corner. Go ahead.
What I found that always
Brad.
works is if you go into a salon and you think they're going to be kind of like rude to you, just say, well, I'm a firefighter, that's my full-time job, and then say this, I do this on the side. And they always like firefighters, so they
That's
just
what I
start
do.
going.
Actually, I'm a police detective.
Just say you're a
I do this all the time.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm telling you with the IRS, and
They
they'll
test
Now,
fire.
I did walk into a salon one time and had my case, and I walked in and all the girls were like, they were all looking at me, and I was pretty dressed up that day because I had nothing to count to do. And for some reason, they had a big squabble in their parking lot. They're in a strip mall, and they put in like a phone soliciting company in the same strip mall. So they're taking all their parking spots. So I went in there and said, boy, there's just nowhere to park around here or anything, you know? And they were all looking at me and being real quiet. And they said, are you an attorney? Because they thought I was from somebody going to try to, you know, there was a lawsuit going or something. No, I'm just a sharpener.
What are you saying? You're not just a sharpener.
No, I'm the sharpener.
What about liability insurance? Do most of y'all carry that or what?
I don't.
You know?
There are sharpeners that do, I know that. I don't. I figure,
Bonding, nothing like that?
you know,
Mess up their shares, give them a new one.
Just give them-
exactly. I mean, that's the most I'm gonna be out is, and that's if I give them a pair of cobalts is, you know, $200 basically.
We do carry liability, we're a little bigger than most of y'all, but it's expensive.
Right.
It really is expensive.
I've looked into it, it's like,
You gotta see me, I get it cheap.
Okay, well, good. But most of the insurance companies put you in there with John, who does metal work. You know, they think you're doing the same thing, and you're in a $1 million situation. You got these heavy presses. That's the category they put you in. So you have to educate your insurance company.
so, not to get off track, shears on display. I always display my shears. I was getting ready to tell you, I sharpen inside, and I got off on the sidewalk. Excuse me. But I sharpen inside. And those of you that sharpen in a van, that's a cool thing. You do your thing, and it's good. The reason I sharpen inside is this. It puts myself in front of the client that much more. My face, I'm in there. FaceTime. And stylists, for stylists especially, time is money. And if I'm in that back room sharpening, they might have 10 minutes in between a client. Well, in that 10 minutes, you know, oh yeah, the shear guy's back here. Well, they come back. Oh no, he's out in the truck. Oh, well, my next client's here anyway.
Yeah.
So now I haven't even talked to them about shears. I've discussed it. They were going to come over and talk to me, but because I wasn't in the salon, I was out in the van doing the sharpening. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No, but that's a very smart point.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. And believe me, I'd love to be able to just go in the back of the van, have the TV on, have everything set up. But the reason I don't is because I want to be in that customer's face as much as possible. Another reason I don't do that, because I thought about the van thing. Another reason is they see that guy, and I don't know if it was here, somebody talked about it. You take your shears and you go out to the van, and somebody talked the other day about they didn't even sharpen them or whatever. They don't know what you're doing. I really think stylists dig watching the process. They didn't know what it was, especially when you take them apart, you're cleaning them, you're doing the ride line. You know, man, this guy is really doing something. He's got this machine. It's not just somebody coming in on an old bench grinder like the other guy used to do. It looks technical. They like looking at it. Sometimes hard to find a spot, a station, a back room. The back room, sometimes a dispensary is like, you know, this big. Where do I set up? I can. One thing for me, yeah, I usually do a dryer. It does get a little hot sometimes. But the cool thing about doing a dryer top is that you can get out of the way if they need to get into it. If you do it on the washer, they're like, let's put towels in there. Oh, I got to move my machine and everything. So I always look for a dryer top first. That's my #1 place. Usually it's in a dispensary, so those girls are going to be coming in and out, either the mixed color, go get their cigarette and go out the back door. They're ready for their cigarette break. I'll tell you what, I sell more shears to stylists that are coming back to have a smoke than I probably do anybody out on the sales floor. Because now they've got some, you know they've got at least 5-10 minutes if they're going to come back and grab that cigarette. I've even gone as far as to walk out the back door with them, go through my spiel on the Bonika Shears while they're smoking. I've sold shears like that. So I think it's better to be in front of the client as much as possible. Go ahead.
Are you wearing a shirt and tie to most of your gigs?
No.
No.
I usually wear a pair. This is probably casual for me.
Okay.
Now, if I'm going into more upscale salons, I'll wear pretty much a casual button-down shirt, you know, maybe a long sleeve shirt with a pair of somewhat Dockers, something like that. The days of the suit and tie went away when I quit working for the color company, and that's why I do what I do, because #1, I can dress a little bit more casual. I feel you've got to dress kind of for the salon. Now, if you're going into a lot of, don't take this wrong, more wash and set salons where everybody's a little bit more down to earth. You know, I've got a country junction, and I do a lot of salons out in the country. I can dress down a little bit.
Okay.
But sometimes if you go into, you know, I don't know why, but, you know, an upscale salon, they think, you know, they're up here. If you come in there with blue jeans and a t-shirt, and they're kind of like, well, who is this guy? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. You guys dress the way you want, what makes you feel comfortable. But sometimes you have to understand, not everybody here, because I know there's a lot of people that do grooming stuff and everything, but for me, I'm in the beauty industry. And I try to reflect that somewhat a little bit. Now, you don't have to get a suit and tie and go out and buy Armani clothes and shirts and $700 pair of blue jeans, but I like at least to look sharp and nice and clean, you
I
know?
usually just wear a shirt and tie over
Yeah.
the suit purpose.
Yeah, and I don't even do that. I very seldom ever do a tie thing. Ron?
Makes a big difference whether it's your first call or your fourth or fifth call.
That's true, that's true. Now, once I'm in somebody and they know me, they may get me someday in a ball cap and a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt. If they call me and they need me in there and I wasn't planning on going in, that's part of the gig. But, you know, if I'm going to make cold calls, I want to make a nice appearance, especially in the high-end salons. So, shears on display. What I do is I listen, and not to go too deep, but I listen for cues. And a cue from a stylist might be that, oh, I need a new pair of shears, but I can't afford them right now. Man, that just opens my ear. Anytime I hear them say, I need a new, my ears like tugging. But then sometimes it's followed up, but I don't have the money right now. So what does that triggers something in my brain that, well, maybe this is one that I'm going to do the payment plan on, or the rental program on, which I've never done, which I really like. Or maybe I'll do a rental program with them. But it opens up a door just by listening to what they're telling me of how I'm going to approach that customer and how I'm going to try to get a pair of shears in their hand that day. So I listen for the cues that you can tie to a sale.
Well,
Never.
the worst thing is put it on your customer card.
Pardon me?
The worst thing is put it on your customer card.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We've covered this. I understand I wrote this class before yesterday, so a lot of things that I might talk about, we may have talked about a little bit yesterday with all the great ideas we had. Never, never, never put down their shears from a different manufacturer. Because like we said, you never know where those shears come. They could have been in their family for 20 years, and those are like grandpa to her, you know. So I never downgrade anybody else's shears. Now when I talk shears, once they come to me and say, oh Doug, I see that you sell shears. What kind are those? I really hit on, the few things I hit on, I tell them, and I'm just going to tell you guys, these are Bonika. And I let them know that here in the United States, they're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Well, I say Atlanta because they can relate to that better than Duluth. And besides that, they might think it has something to do with some runway ride or something. So I tell them, this is very important, I tell them that this company was started by a woman and is woman-owned. They love that. They relate to that. They're an owner right now. I'm not talking to a guy that's a salon owner, it's a little different. But they're a woman-owned business. They're a small business. I tell them it's family-owned. I said they have their daughters work there. The husband and the wife go out. The son-in-law does the sharpening. They like that. They, you know, even though you might be a 12 or 15 chair salon, you're still considered a small business. And they can relate to people that are in small business. That's why I think they relate to us so well, because we are a small business. We're not a big franchise or a big, huge conglomerate coming in there with their briefcases in the corporate world. We're an independent business person just like you are. So I talk about that. I tell them it's woman-owned. I tell them it's family-owned. The next thing I talk about, I tell them the great thing about Bonika is not only do they come with a full lifetime warranty against manufacturer defects, but they also come with an accidental damage warranty. And they're like, really? I say, yeah. So if you drop your shears, or the ones that, and I just did this case actually while we were sitting here. My case was black. These might be out a little organized. And I kind of group my shears in my case by price. I kind of have all my 159s and my jazzies on this side. Then I jump up to my 199s, and I'm talking sale price. I jump up to my 199s and my cobalts and everything on this side. And I tell them, everything you see on this side that sells for 199, and I always tell them that's sale price. Another little trick I do, as I say, now I sell all my regular customers at sale price. I tell Regis, I sell everybody under the Regis umbrella at sale price. Makes them feel a little special. You're not lying to them, but you do. But I do it to everybody. I let them know. Normally it's $248.75, but for you it'd be $199. So I let them know everything over here has a 1-year accidental damage warranty. Everything you have over here has a 3-month. I don't use 90 days because 3 months sounds longer than 90 days for some reason. You know, I see John back here shaking his head because he's digging. You know what I'm talking about, right? So I let them know about the warranty. I think that's a big selling point. I tell them that Bonika is one of the only companies that have an accidental damage warranty. You know, you'll read a lot of other manufacturers' warranties and it'll say lifetime warranty. Well, those girls read the first thing that says lifetime warranty. But if you read that really close, it's just like Bonika. It's against manufacturer defects. So I tell them, hey, if you drop that shear within a year, I'm going to take care of anything. If it's damaged beyond repair, I'm going to give you a new pair of shears. And I do. And I've sent a drop pair back. And that's the great thing about Bonika is that I never once have ever called Misty or Jean or, what's your name? I'm teasing. Or Bonnie. I don't get to talk to Bonnie that often. That's why it's usually Misty. Send them back, Doug. No problem. And that's a great thing. Who wants to go through the hassle of calling, having to talk to 3 or 4 people and then go through that? Well, we need the form filled out. Jeez, who wants to go through that hassle? That's why I do business with Bonika. Go ahead, John.
Can I add one other little thing? Because I use this as a big sales point for me, and I will tell the stylists, yes, I cannot compete with people that are going to give you a gas grill when you buy a shear. I can't give you all these extra things you see in big catalogs. The one thing I can give you that they will not is if you have a problem with your shear, you call me. I'll be here within 2 days, and you will have absolute satisfaction guaranteed right away. You're not going to go through your distributor. You're not going to have to go through them, going through the shear company, sending your shears back to wherever they came from, and waiting for weeks to get it get satisfaction.
Great.
With me, 2 days, it's a done deal.
Same thing I do, and I tell them that once I go through the warranty with me, and of course, I'm gonna have to do the measuring thing now, because that's another special little service you can offer that's gonna make them more loyal on the measuring of the hand and stuff. But I do the same thing that John does. I say, the other thing, well, let me just continue with, I go through the warranty, I go through the quality and the price. It's a good quality shear for the price that you're giving. Then I touch on, and I use Centrex as an example because they were giving the free bicycle away. I go, you know, I could come in here and give you a free bicycle or a free DVD player and sell you this shear for $248.75, but I would rather give you a high quality shear at what I feel is a great price and back it up with the best service you're going to get. And they step back and I'm like, wow. I said, you know, buying a shear from, and I don't knock any other distributor because I've got some big ones in my area. I say buying a shear from, you know, a big house or manufacturer, you know, if you have a problem with it, you're going to have to jump through hoops to get something done, kind of like what John touched on. With me, you make one phone call, I'm going to pick up that phone and I'm going to solve your problem, okay? Be a day, 1 day, 2 days, it's going to be within 48 hours. I'm going to have you either up another pair of shears or give you another pair of shears, but you will have something to cut with. Some of the distributors in my area, BSG being the biggest one, which is Beauty System Groups, which has Victory and Barnum and a lot of other subsidiaries under it. It's just one of the 1,000 things those guys sell. They're shampoo and conditioning guys, you know, they're color guys. Me, this is all I do. This is how I make a living, is on these shears. And this is what I tell the client, exactly what I'm telling you. For whatever reason, they put it in their hand, they try it, they love it, they've had the backup from me, they buy. But going back to the Centrex thing, you know, they gave the free bicycles away and the free DVD players. I thought about it at one time. I thought, you know what? The girls seem to like that. Stylists do love freebies, you know. That is one thing they do like. But once I tell them that they're going to get a free case, and something that I do, I think it's in my old case, I give them a little certificate, just kind of like a thank you card. It says, thank you for purchasing a pair of Bonika Shears, and it says their first sharpening is free, and I tell the client that, you know, anytime you get your, first time you get your Bonika sharpened, I'll do it for free. I give them a little certificate along with their warranty and everything. So it's like, oh, wow, that's great. Go ahead.
Well, on the free sharpening part, sometimes they'll have that. We did that on that same system. They'll have a pair sharpening while they're buying that pair. I said, you can use this.
I do the same thing.
I said, you can go free sharpening.
I said, you can use this on your Bonikas down the road, or if you want to use it towards another pair, I'll go ahead and take it towards another pair today. Now I'm done with that, and that hassle's out of the way, you know. So, but then sometimes they're like, oh yeah, I got my coupon, you know, and sometimes they just forget about it. And I do mark it down on my receipt book and on the card, but if they don't say anything to me, sometimes I'll forget if I don't look close enough or something. But as long as they got that card, or if I know I sold them a pair of shears and the first time they're going to have it, I'll say, have you got your little card? No, I lost it. Okay, don't worry about it. I don't make them turn that thing in to get their sharpening. So the freebies, that's the other thing that they really love. The case, the first sharpening free. Now I've kind of listened for those cues while I've been showing them the shears. And if it's a money issue, I've listened to that. I don't really have any money, or we just had to pay my son's orthodontist, or whatever it might be. But they really love that shear. That's when I'm going to come with a payment plan with them. If they don't mention any hardships or anything, and they think they're going to pay me all that money there at one time, then I'm going to take it. The only time I'll usually divert to a payment plan if I feel I need that extra little push to sell that shear because they're tight on money. Go ahead.
How do you work your payment plans?
What I do is kind of like, and I really learned this from Gene and Bonnie, is that no matter what the shear is, and I explain it to them like this, say it comes to $200 with tax, and I know they come to $212 or whatever it is. $200 with tax, you give me half down, which is $100. I give you the shears, they're yours, and then I do the post-dated check thing. They don't have a checking account, and they're within, understand, I only go about a 50-mile radius of my house. I don't go driving 3 hours or 4 hours or anything, because I feel there's enough salons in that 50-mile radius. I can't even call on all of them. So why go out any further when I can't get all the ones in my backyard? And then I let them do another $50 in 2 weeks, and then the last $50 in 2 weeks. So it's basically half down, $50 in 2 weeks, $50 in another 2 weeks. I'll have them post-date the checks. If they're somewhat close, like I say, it's about an hour, hour and a half drive. Now, if they're all the way up in Sydney, I really like to get 2 checks, but if they can't do that, I will go back for the payment. Okay, it's got to be some trust. I really look at my client. When I'm not getting those post-dated checks, I have to look at who's doing it. Now, if it's a young girl that's kind of, oh, my name's Brittany, and she may be there a week from now, she may be gone 2 weeks from now, and now you're beat out of your money. In the 3 years I've been doing the shears, I've only been beat out of about a couple $100 maybe, and that's not too bad. Sooner or later, I'm going to run into those girls. They're going to have to work somewhere, and I'm going to run into them. They're going to be, oh yeah, I forgot all about owing you that money. And yeah, right, okay. Because I know who I owe. I forget who owes me, but I know who we owe.
So when you make the initial 100 down, you get the 2 post-dated checks right then and there?
I try to. If they have a checking account, I'll ask them, do you have a checking account? If they have a checking account, I will take the 2 post-dated checks with me.
2 weeks consecutive after the first?
Right, so if she wrote me a check on the 10th, she's going to write me another check, 14 days, on the 24th, and then whatever, how many days are in the month on the 12th or whatever it might be.
Will you call her and let you know you're putting the check through?
No, this is what I tell them. I say, I'll hold the check to the date, write the date you want me to put it in. I don't call them because then you're like calling every other person. I said, if you know you're going to have any problems, call me. Because otherwise that check's going in on the 22nd. Okay. Now if they call me and say, Doug, can you hold that check a few days? My car broke down. Sure, honey. That's no problem. A few days isn't going to kill me. Now if they call and say, you can't put that check in for 5 months. Well, then we're going to have to talk issues. And maybe charge them a little more, or whatever it might be. That's never happened to me.
Right.
And I'm exaggerating there.
Scenario.
Yeah, but usually I try to get the checks. The other thing I do is I do Visa MasterCard. I do accept Visa MasterCard, Discover, American Express, JCPenney, Sears, Shells, and Sonoma. I just thought I'd see if you guys were listening. I do MasterCard, Visa, and Discover. And if you're ever going to do a charge machine, it's really not worth your money to do American Express because not a lot of stylists carry American Express. I've had it for 3 years now. I pay $5 a month to take it. What's that, $160, $180 over the last 3 years. I've sold 1 pair of shears, and the other day, for the first time in about a year and a half, I rang up a $20 sharpening on American Express. So it really hasn't paid for me.
What
It's
does
just
American Express take out of that $20?
well, it costs you $5, and then they're going to get their 2% or whatever.
It's usually around 3% for American
Yeah,
Express. They're the highest of
I
any.
think it's 2.8 or something with American Express. So it's just me having time to, go on the computer and call them and saying, what, cancel this thing, would you? I don't know. I guess some way in the back of me, I'm hoping that somebody's going to, buy 4 pairs of shears and hand me American Express. But it's not going to happen. So on the Visa MasterCard, that's another payment option for them. One thing that I will do is I'll run half through on, say I'm selling the shears on the 10th. I don't break it into quarters when I'm doing a Visa MasterCard. I just try to get the other payment into the next month for them because they're getting a monthly statement and they're going to have to pay that bill next month. So on a Visa MasterCard, I'll do 2 payments for them. I'll run the first one in on the 10th. I've got their number already because it's on my printed receipt out of my machine. And then I'll tell them I'll run the other one in next month on the 10th. So I'm usually not ever waiting too much more than really 30 days to get my money because they're making that first payment right then and there. Then they're making you another payment in 2 weeks and another payment in 2 weeks. I've got my own money in 31 days. Then I got to turn around and pay Bonika in the 30 days I own. So.
You have a question?
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
2 things.
Yeah.
On the warranty work that Bonika has, I'm not familiar with it, so they drop their shears and they nickel in some way. Do you then repair them for free?
I
or
look
do you
at
repair them and bill him?
No, I look at
On the warranty,
Well, wait a minute, I gotta write that down.
on the warranty.
We all missed it.
Yeah,
On the warranty,
Let
it
Gene
says there, it's a $9 charge for warranty work, and basically that's the price to mail them back to them. So I mean, because they're gonna FedEx them to us, we're gonna FedEx them back. $9 pays to FedEx them back. If, charge them $9 for the warranty, it's right there on the card. I mean, that's what you're gonna pay if you send them back to us. Now, if you want them to send them back to us, we'll do it for free, and we'll charge them $9. And half, I'm not gonna say this, this will kill me, but half the time we only charge them $9, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
Because most of the
I
time,
don't
I
charge
do.
them anything to repair the shears or resharpen it, because I think that's one of the other services that's
I
gonna
don't
get
have a problem with it, I'm just,
that
I
loyalty
don't know
hook.
what Bonika's deal is,
No, no, no.
that's all I'm asking.
Now, if you, leave it up to you, either have your customer send it back to us, because again, Misty doesn't want to be cutting you $9 checks, it's just too expensive and too hard to keep up with. But when you repair their shears that they've messed up, and nobody else does that,
Right.
nobody.
I don't have a problem with it.
You talk about customer loyalty, they love you, because believe me, we had a pair of Joel's get dropped right after they got new. They called Joel up, they said they covered, dropped on the floor and broke in half. Brand new pair of Joel's. And they said, oh yeah, those are covered under our warranty. Send us a check for $94 and we'll repair it, we'll send you a replacement.
That's a warranty.
That's
And
the-
most
that was the-
girls don't read their warnings, they
And-
don't.
That's a sweet
And
deal.
that, we loved it because we sold her a $300 pair of shears that day.
The last thing is, when it comes to the credit card, on your merchant account,
Yeah,
if you give them an invoice, if you're gonna hit them a second time,
right. We
okay?
talked about this the other day.
If you give them an invoice, if you write down that you're gonna hit them a second time on the invoice, and they sign it, then you can hit them a second time, and your credit card company will back you up. If you get Bitsy, or whatever you said, the girl, you know, the girl that's gonna be there today and gone tomorrow, she'll argue with the credit card that she didn't authorize that. So you need that 50
She could.
minutes of pay. Well,
But I tell you this,
if she's a
usually,
whack, she will. If she's not, she won't.
right, and I'm just gonna say this, most of the young girls that are so flighty, they're gonna hop around, they're gonna try to cheat you out of your $90 or $80, they probably don't even have a credit card. That's what I run into, they don't have credit, that's why they don't have credit, is because they're bouncing everybody all over the place and not paying their bills. But yeah, when I do that, on my receipt, even on any payment plan, what I'll do is I'll put the bottom line of what they owe, I'll put the payment they made with the date next to it, and then I'll put the other payment down when it will be taken out, and then I have them sign the bottom of the receipt, like they're signing the Visa receipt or the MasterCard receipt. So, you do have to cover yourself a little bit, but no matter what, as long as you're getting half down, you're not gonna lose money. You know, that's the way I look at it. At least I've gotten my cost plus a little bit out of those shears. So if she does skip town or go somewhere or doesn't pay you, you've not really actually lost money. Yeah, you didn't make a profit, and I consider that losing money. But in actuality, you didn't lose anything. It's just I didn't make that extra $90 I should have. So that's really what I do. The other thing I think is important is that, you know, they'll sit there and talk shears and, oh, I love these and everything. You gotta ask for the sale. You've got to close that sale. And that can be something as, you know, I see you really like those, so you want me to go ahead and write you up for those today? Don't just sit there and wait like, okay, tell me something, do you want them or don't you want them? I always finish it, so you want me to go ahead and write those shears up for you today? Yeah, go ahead, I guess I'll go ahead and get them. You know, it happens just by asking for that sale. You can't just show them to them, go through all the spiel and everything, and not close the deal. So it's very important to ask for the sale and finish it up in a good way. So that's how I go about selling shears, guys. I lay them out, I show them. When I'm sharpening, and this is another thing, you can be, now I sharpen standing up, so I'm going to they're looking at the shears. Yeah, I'm actually going to stop my sharpening and answer the questions. I do that. I don't know if you want to say, you know what, I'll talk to you afterwards when I get done. But they may not be there afterwards because they got a foil going on. They got to get that foils out of that lady's hair. And then their next client's coming in. So that little squeak of time you get with the stylist in the back room, that may only be your one shot to get them. So for me, yeah, it may throw me behind 15 or 20 minutes. You call your next account and say, you know what, I'm running about a half hour behind, you're still going to be there. Sometimes you're like, no, I got to go out the door at 4 o'clock. How about if I stop? You can work around to get back to see that client. Now, I know a lot of you live in Nebraska where they're, 20 cornfields or 100 miles in between. Little tougher. I live in more of a metropolitan area with a lot of suburbs all around the Dayton area that I call on. So for me to go all the way across town, it's a half an hour.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad to rearrange or try to reschedule with somebody, because, like I said, I'd much rather sell a pair of shears in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, make $125 than to sit here and have to do 6 pairs of shears to make the same amount of money. So that's the way I look at it. So ask for the sale, listen for your cues, what they're telling you, the cues they're going to give you. Do I need to do a payment plan? Do I need to do a rental plan? I haven't done that yet, but that's probably in the process for me. So that kind of covers the call. After the sale, after the call, after the sale, I like that. After the sale, but after your call, whether you've sold anything or not, I always go back to my card. I record the information on my customer card like we talked about. And I even go a little bit further, okay? I have what I call a call report sheet. I don't turn this in to anybody. I used to get these from my sales reps. At one time I had 28 sales reps that worked for me when I was with Gold. And they'd have to every week send me their call report sheets, and I'd sit there and whatever. I didn't realize how important it was because, like I said, not only do I write it on the customer card what my little idea was, or the trip to Hawaii, or whatever it might have been, or the shears, but I go out in the car and I'd say, and basically I take a piece of lined notebook paper is what it is, write the account number down, talk to Susie about Bonika trifangles, check back in 2 months, that's my little thing. So then when I go to that day when I know Susie's coming up and I was there 3 months ago, I got all my call report sheets there by date. I was there on the 14th. I'll pull out the 14th call report sheet. It tells me exactly what I talked about in that salon. And because I learned the hard way. When I first jumped over to here from the big corporate world, as Ron would say, I wanted to do as little paperwork as possible. So I got lazy. I did. I mean, it was just like, I'm going in, I think I can remember all this stuff, I can remember it all. It doesn't happen. But one time I walked into an account and the girl was like, have you got those shears we were talking about? What were we talking, made me look kind of like an idiot. To where I should have been the one coming to her saying, remember we talked about those shears last time? I got them back in now, or whatever it might have been. So it makes it look, you're in the driver's seat instead of them saying something to you, and you're looking like, what? I didn't talk to you last time? So it just gives me a little bit of backup, so when I go in there the next time, I've got some ammo in my gun that I can hit them with. So that's what I think about. So I record any information on my customer card, fill out my report sheet. Sale or no sale, sharpening or no sharpening, I always try to take something positive out of that call. Now, if I didn't get in the door, maybe I'm going to think, how did I present myself, or how can I present myself better so the next time I do get in there to see somebody? Or if I didn't make the sale, you know what, at least I got a catalog in their hand, I got my business card in my hand, they touched and felt the shears. Because stylists are touchy-feely people. I used to say this years ago, they want to touch it, taste it, smell it. So when it comes to shears, they want to feel them, they want to cut with them. Ron, you let everybody, we do and we didn't talk on this, but I always loved the phrase, the Bonika test drive. I always thought that was a cool way to phrase it to a stylist. So I said, do you want to take a Bonika test drive? Now, I am a little bit more particular on letting the girls just cut with any shear. I have about 2 or 3 in my case. The D5 I let them use, D5.5. At least it gives them a feel. Now, if they're real interested in the cobalt, I'm going to let them try the cobalt or the trifangle. But if they're just saying, you have a pair I can try or I can cut with, I'm probably not going to hand them my best shear because, number one, now you've got a $350 shear that, even though it's only been used maybe once, still used. But if I get a girl that gets down and I hear those cues that she doesn't have a lot of money, I'll say, well, you know what? This one's only been used like 3 or 4 times. How about if I give you an extra $10 off of it? Now I've gotten rid of my shear that's been used in my display case. She thinks she's getting a great deal. I'm still making good money. And she's got the shear. So I always like to have a backup on every shear. Like I say, 1 to show, 1 to go. My more popular, I like to have 2 or 3 backups. But like Joe said, you can't sell out an empty wagon. And you've got to have it when they're ready to buy. they're ready to buy. You gotta have it. If you don't, 3 days from now, their whole world has changed. Now, not every time and not every client, but the younger ones and the ones that maybe aren't as established, you know, they've got kids, and kids' expenses can come up like that, and you don't know where your money's going. So get the sale. When they're talking about it, try to make that sale that day. I think that's important.
Do you, excuse me just a minute, do
Yeah,
you
go
try
ahead.
to, do you try to make those when they're, other than the used one, do you find that they are just as receptive to taking it out of your case, or do you find they want you to go get a new one out of the car?
They're receptive to taking it right out of the case because, you know, once somebody does use a shear, I clean it all up and everything.
Right,
make it
well, I
look
mean,
brand
yeah.
new. But yeah, lots of times, you know, if I know a shear's not been used out of here or demoed, you know, I'll just take them right out of my case. But usually, like I say, I've got one. Now these, just starting out, this is the only pair of the mood shears that I got. And I'll sell right out of this case.
Well, sometimes I just tell them, you know, I got some out in the car, nobody's even touched or played
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, and I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I've got that in a brand new shear out in the car, like the D5s or whatever the popular shear is, and I'll go out and get them a brand new shear. And I'll even bring it in a little plastic thing, because then they know that it's definitely a new shear. You know, I say, this is the way I get them, and I give them a case. And stick
Sometimes
it in
they
the
like
case.
that better.
Yeah, they do, because that looks new from the manufacturer.
Yeah, also, when you do that, it does say it's new, because if you have it in the leather case, they don't know.
Right.
But then, when you give them that, that's the way they're used to seeing them, and then you say, oh, and here's your free leather case.
Mhm.
It emphasizes that free leather case.
So take a positive away from the call, whether it's just getting a card to somebody or your catalog to somebody. I think it's really important, plenty of business cards, plenty of catalogs, because so often I've gone into a salon, the girls look at the shears, they don't have the money, let me leave you a catalog with a price sheet, and then the next time you go in, oh yeah, I saw your catalog in the back, you're the one with the Bonika Shears and stuff. So just by leaving that, you'd be surprised how many girls pick that up and look at it. Because stylists love to buy shears. I mean, that's their tools. They love toys. And that can be everything from their blow dryer, their flat irons, their shears, their capes, their combs. The stuff they work with is what they have fun buying. They don't want to go back there and place a color order or see how many bottles of deep conditioning shampoo they need to order. That's no thrill for them. But the tools, they love those. So I like to sell fun stuff. And considering all this stuff, this is the good stuff to sell to stylists, because this is stuff they like buying. But celebrate your success. If you have a sale, I've gone in, and this is a little thing I do. If any one day I sell 3 pairs of shears, it's a large chocolate dip ice cream cone from Dairy Queen. That's my celebration. Believe me. But celebrate that. You know, you've gone out and made $700 today. Maybe go out and have a nicer dinner or something. You know, give yourself a reward once in a while, other than just the money that you made. So celebrate that success. I think it's important. With that, I'm going to pretty much finish up. A couple things that I think are good quotes, and I don't ever know where I got these. I've said them for years, and in all my classes that I do, is that successful people do the things that unsuccessful people don't do or don't want to do. You know, I know the calling cards and the customer cards and the wrap plans and all, it's a big pain in the butt. But believe me, it can make you successful by having a good administrative, good time management is what can make you successful. Because with good time management, maybe you can make one more call that day. And that one more call might be 3 pairs of shears and sharpening 5. So now I've bumped up, instead of making $300 today, I've made $450 today. So, like I say, do the things that the other people don't do or don't want to do, the other reps, the other sharpeners, whatever it might be, fixing the damaged shear for free, putting a washer in. It's the little things that you'll do that will put you a step above everybody else out there. Another little thing I do, I know it's crazy, I carry suckers with me. You can't believe how many kids are running around in salons and stuff. And now, I love to fill them up with sugar and then head out to the salon.
Yeah.
A lot of stylists will bring their kid, you know, oh, my daughter's in the back room because she's got to go to school or whatever, you know. So I hand them a sucker. You know, just a little thing. I know it's stupid. It cost me $2.99 for a bag of suckers. That's like with your candy deal. I love that candy deal the other day. It's just that little extra thing that you're going to do that the other guy isn't going to do that's going to give you that client loyalty which is going to be repeat business. It's going to be maybe buying a pair of shears down the road or a set of shears. I have one girl, God, how many shears? She's got 8 pairs of Bonikas now, and that's within about a year and a half. I don't know why she likes me so much, but but she bought 1 pair, good quality price. She got great service. So when she was ready to buy another pair of shears, she gave me. Now when I go in there, it's like, Doug, what have you got new? What new shears have you got? When I got those moon shears in, I made a special trip up there to her just because she was asking me for something new. She didn't buy those yet because she's a little tight on money, but we'll get them in there to her, I promise you. So another one I like to talk about is be persistent and consistent. I think that's very important, persistent and consistent. And I know a couple of you talk about, I'm just going to touch on this real quick and then I'm going to get done and get out of here. Cold calling. A lot of people hate the cold call. Tim? Oh, there it is. You said the other day. Personally, I love the cold call. That's my bag, that's what I enjoy. When I was with Goldwell, I really became about a human resource director for the company. The last couple of years I was with them because I would hire somebody, we'll go through the process of placing the ad in the help wanted section, then do the interviews, then do the final interviews, then get them and train them, then take them out on the road, spend 2 weeks with them, and by the time you got that person out and rolling, somebody else would be leaving for whatever reason, good or bad, so you'd start the whole process over again. Now I go down to Ann Arbor and start the hiring and the whole process. So I felt like a human resource director, and what I really loved in this industry was going in the salon and meeting people, meeting stylists, seeing what was going on with them. So cold calling is hard. If you make a whole day out of cold calling, you'll burn yourself out. I had to do it when I started this business. We all had to. We wouldn't be anywhere if we didn't make a cold call once in a while. But if you do have a regular clientele that you're seeing on a regular basis, I always try to make 1 cold call a day. 1. Because there's got to be a salon you haven't walked into, you drove by 20 times, the parking lot was empty one other time, whatever it is, I try to make 1 cold call a day. I'm very polite when I go in. I know it's a tough thing, but when I go in, the first thing I do is, of course, go to the receptionist if they have a receptionist. If not, I'll go to usually the person in one of the front 2 stations, because that's usually one of the owners will take that first station. And what I do if it's a receptionist, I'll go in with my card and I'll say, "Hi, my name's Doug Clark. I have DC Sales and Sharpening." And when I do that, I have my business cards in here in my case. I got to open up my case to get my business card out.
No.
The girl, oh my God, they love looking at that. They know you're not a solicitor. They know that you're in business to sell shears. So I go into here to get my business card out. And I'll ask them, I say, "Do you have a sharpener that comes into the salon right now?" And they might say, "No." "Oh yeah, we've got this one guy, but he doesn't do a very good job." Or "We got the $10 van guy." Oh, I didn't mean to say that. There's a guy in my area that charges $10 a shear that's in a van. I call him the $10 van guy who does crap work.
Oh boy.
So I call him the $10 van guy. So anyway, but it's very, I know it's tough to do, but you got to do it because you're going to lose some accounts down the road. Maybe the salon went out of business. Maybe the lady retired. She's been doing hair for 50 years. Whatever it might be, you got to fill that up on the back end somehow. Usually I keep filling up, but I don't drop any off. So now which is a good thing, I guess. Go ahead.
Something to help me out, and I don't do as much in sales as probably a lot of people do. I'm more like sharpening. I should be more like sales. But anyway, one thing that's got me in this with salons is no matter whether they ever do me anything or not, every time I go in a salon, I'll say, when I get ready to leave, I'll say, "Thank you for at least taking the time to speak."
Yeah, exactly. And I, like I said,
whether they deal with me or not.
I've been turned down before, and just be polite about it. Say, "Well, let me leave you a card." And sometimes if they showed any interest whatsoever, like, well, they had a sharpener, or Shear, they got excited. I saw their eyes go open when I opened my case and gave them my card. I said, "Well, here, let me go ahead and leave you a catalog also." Now, I've got my name and address and all my card and everything on the price sheet of the Bonika price sheet. So my name, my number's in there. I've given them a business card. They've got the stuff from me. Then when I sharpen their shears. But usually, I always start off my conversation with, and that's why I named my company DC Sales and Sharpening. And when I go in and introduce myself to somebody new, I don't come in and say I'm a scissor sharpener. I say I sell and sharpen shears, because I want the emphasis on the sales end of it. So that's what I start off with. I DC Sales and Sharpening. So they know, hey, he's a salesman, you know, he's selling. But you know what? If you don't come in, never go into a first-time account. I would never walk into a first-time account like this. Never. Well, first of all, I thought that was going to pull. Is that a machine in there?
Yeah, man, that was my organization you just destroyed.
You get the point. You get the point. You come in with your sharpening machine and your case, and it's like, what is this guy trying to sell me? Jeez, he's got a bag of stuff. The first time in, when I go in, and John, you were the one that used your small one. This is it for me. This is what I'm going to walk in with. Or my old one. This is new for me. I like this blue. This is it for me. I open it up. I've got my business cards in there. I open them to give them a business card. I purposely do that. I could have it in my hand, but I don't, because I want to open this up in front of them and see what the heck I've got. So, with that, I guess that's really it.
One thing, may I?
Questions?
When I
Let's
leave
go
the
to
shop, the last thing I do is say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, as I go out.
See, that's your little thing.
And a lot of people don't bother.
No, exactly. I always am leaving with a thank you. Thank you guys. So especially when I'm overly thankful to them, because lots of time a rep comes in there, they go and write up their shampoo, they go in the back and write up their perms and all this stuff, and then they're out the door. There's not that, you know, in a relationship that you need. Go ahead.
I've also noticed if you present yourself as a salesperson of shears, and then say you also service your shears, meaning sharpening, that they're less apprehensive, because I think because of the bad guys doing the crap work out there, they are apprehensive about you just saying, oh, I'm a shear sharpener. No, I'm Josh,
Right.
I sell Bonika Shears, whatever, and I also service them as well. They're less, you know, it breaks down that barrier, and they take you more seriously, and your credibility is better established, I think, from my experience.
I think you always do better selling shears and sharpening, because I know, because you don't have anything else to offer. So how loyal are they going to be to you?
It's a perfect marriage.
Yeah, it's a perfect, it's not too often I'll walk into a new account, sell a pair of shears, and not do any sharpening. Usually starts here. You do the sharpening first. They love your work. Now they have trust in you. Now everything you're telling them, they believe, because he told me he'd fix my shears and make them right, and he did. Yeah, go ahead.
The question you asked when you go on a cold call about, do you have a, would you say that again?
No, I asked him, I don't know if that's...
Do you have a sharpener?
Oh, yeah, and I would ask him, do you have a sharpener that comes in the salon now? I kind of double think that now that I say that, because it might be, like, yeah, we do, and we're very happy with them. But you know, it's kind of just something to break the ice if they're not interested in the shears, because lots of times, you know, you might not get past that guard dog, the receptionist at the front, even to get back to talk to the stylist. Sometimes they may have a no for you, or you need to call. That's why you need to know your stylist. Some stylists don't want you to walk up and talk to them while they have a client in the chair. You've got to kind of feel that, and it takes some time, and like I said, I've done this for a long time. But you can kind of tell if they're being short with you and stuff, probably not the best time to talk to them about shears when they have a client in the chair. Now some people, yeah, come on over. The clients love to hear you talk about shears. Oh yeah, they have no idea they're paying $200 for shears. It's kind of enlightening. You know, so some of them like to involve their client. And other ones don't get around me when I'm doing hair. Stay away. You know, stylists are very emotional people. They're artists. They're not business people first. They're artists. So I can catch a stylist in 2 weeks, and we're getting along great, and everything's hunky-dory and fine. I can go in there a month or 2 months from now, and it's like, Doug, I don't have time today. Especially the gay guys. They're even worse. It's like, they love me one time, and it's like, Doug, just go. I don't have time to do today. We just don't have time. All right, you know. So you're dealing with an emotional business. It really is. Touchy-feely, emotional business, and artistic people. So it's a little bit different than selling some guy at Caterpillar Machinery that's going to make hubs, and you're a metal salesman or a disc blade salesman or a paint hardware salesman or whatever it is. You're dealing with artistic people. So you've got to kind of handle them a little bit different with kid gloves and know their emotions, and you don't want to go try to sell somebody when they're in a terrible mood. They don't want to see you. I want to catch, not that you're going to catch everybody in a good mood all the time, but sometimes isn't the best time to talk to a stylist. So you need to know that and feel that. And you got to take consideration. Exactly.
And during those times when you have that cold shoulder, oh, we already have someone that sharpens our shears. And then I call, are you happy with their work? Oh yeah, we're very happy with their work. Well, like, okay, here's my card, now you have options. Because on any given day, one stylist might need something right away. He might not be able to service that stylist right away. And so, let's call Josh. He said, he was here the other day, and boom, that's when I know I need to hit that
And
skill.
don't never, ever, never hammer another sharpener either. Never. Because that could be their cousin's brother or their grandfather. Oh, this guy did crap work. I just say, you know what? I think the angle might be a little bit wrong on these shears. I can go ahead and fix them for you. I never down any, now, between us, I do the $10 van guy, but not to a customer. They may love that $10 van guy sharpening. They may think he does the greatest work in the world. So if you go in there and hammer him right away, what are they going to think about you? Oh, he's just cutthroat. He just wants the business. I eventually just want to sell them shears.
Doug's got a real good point. Anything that you say negatively about your competition or anybody else in any fashion, it brings up, it shows that you're biased.
Yep.
And, the best guy in the world is usually, I've been in this conversation, and Doug will kind of support this, been in lots of conversations with sales managers who would have told me that, nice guys finish last in this world. I'm the nicest guy in the world. I'll be the most neutral guy in the world. People from everywhere in these salons will come to talk to me about their mother, their grandmother, and everything else because I don't choose to be biased about it. Right. So you become a natural, easy way for people to blame.
I'm soft. Now, I know I have worked different parts of the area. Now, Chicago, New York, a little bit more direct, abrasive salespeople. You just have to be. You have to be a little more aggressive because that's what those, I don't say those people, but people that are in certain areas, yeah, they're a little bit rougher. I'm soft. I'm easy. I'd probably get chewed up if I had to call in New York and Chicago all the time.
It's rough.
But you got to be a little bit more aggressive. So you got to read your client. You got to know where to say what and when to say what and when not to say anything. That's the important thing,
I have better reception with the smaller people versus like the higher end salons. I just think you're dealing with a lot of prima donnas in the higher salons, and it's hard to get through to them.
Oh, it's harder, definitely.
Like I haven't done any major work with any like the more coasts of Chicago because I just think that they're used to.
There's egos in this industry.
It's
Big
hard, yeah.
egos.
It's
You gotta
pretty
be
rough.
Harder to get through to though is easier.
Doug, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I'm done.
But Doug wanted to get out before the traffic, and we do have one more speaker